Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Emerging Tech Community Roundtable. My name is Xiaochen Zhang, the CEO of FinTech for Good, and also the host of this role. And this is a topic that we really care a lot about, and how emerging technology is shaping the industries, and how companies and individuals develop their strategy to cope with it. Today, we have a great panelist, a group of experts who are going to share with us their experience. And without further ado, and I'd like to just have them to introduce themselves. And let's start from George.
Hi, everyone. My name is George. I'm working in AI industry for more than 10 years, mainly focusing in the different types of technology, nowadays focusing on the Gen AI. I'm working at the moment as a senior tech program manager within the Tesco, for Tesco. And before that, I was working for Oracle, IBM, consulting Google and OpenAI with regards to the development of the Gen AIs. A couple of years ago, I also founded the ChatGPT Prompt Factory, and later premium versions of the different AI tools, mainly focusing on the different large language models. So mainly consulting the different types of the business to build their own custom GPT or different types of AI models to enhance their capabilities and enhance their productivity.
Thank you. Yeah, let's move to Oliver. Yeah, Oliver, you're muted.
I've got it. Yes, my name's Oliver Rochford. My background is in tech. I started out as a system integrator, later as a Linux administrator. But at some point, I specialized on cybersecurity, where I worked as a penetration tester, hacking companies for money, essentially, as a consultant, as an evangelist for a number of different companies, including Verizon, HP, Qualys, Tenable, and Securonics. I also worked as an industry analyst for the market research firm Gartner, where I covered cybersecurity operations and threat management topics. But at heart, really, I'm a researcher, and my research has been cited in academia. It's been featured in the media, by Forbes, by the Wall Street Journal. I've been quoted by think tanks like the OECD, and I've also written for Security Week and CSO Online. Today, I work for a startup venture in the field of security operations that focuses on using AI in detection analytics. They're called Auguria. I also run my own tech advisory firm, the Cyber Futurists, and I publish the Curious AI newsletter. And so I used to advise enterprise buyers on selecting AI tools for cybersecurity. And in the meantime, I've worked in data science teams at vendors, building basically AI applications.
Thank you. Where are you based?
I'm based just south of Manchester, just on the top of the lovely Peak District National Park. Yeah.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ali.
Hey everyone, my name is Ali Hussein Kassim. I am the founding chairman of the Association of Fintechs in Kenya, and also an executive board member of the Africa Fintech Network, which is an umbrella organization of 43 national fintech associations in Africa. I'm also an entrepreneur and investor in tech startups, entrepreneur investor advisor in tech startups across Africa. I also consult in digital transformation, mainly focused on with financial services, organizations, challenges, incumbents across Africa. Help them to also navigate the policy and regulatory frameworks. I also run a weekly newsletter on Tech Roundup news across Africa, and also podcast. Both newsletter and podcasts are with the brand name Ali Talks Tech. Looking forward to this conversation today.
Thank you. And let's go back to George. And you shared about your journey in technology, and probably that's you can share with us further, and why did you make that decision, and along the way, and are there any interesting personal story, and then who inspired you, and what organization just get you started, and then from there to here, and what are the exciting things that you'd like to just share with us?
Yep, sure. So as I mentioned, I'm coming from academia. So part of my life, quite big, I think 10, 15 years, I spent in the field of law and business. So I was leading a big faculty of law as a dean and serving from 2010 till 15 in the Republic of Georgia. So as I mentioned, I'm from Georgia originally, but nowadays living in the Czech Republic and mainly working with the various companies across the globe and consulting them. When I arrived in Czech Republic back in 2015, on the job market, there was a boom of the tech. So everybody they were just like headhunting the people. So I was thinking it's good actually to discover this. I was doing my second PhD, which was it was a mix of the neuroscience and AI and technology. So it was about the possibility of digitalizing memories. So that's why I really deep dive in the field of different technology and also in the different languages, coding languages, learn them quite fast, and then started working for the IBM. So then, the technology is the field which is driving a lot of progress nowadays. So then I've said, hey, let's discover more. So what is interesting for me? So technology that connects the human body with the technology, meaning is that, for example, brain-machine interfaces, and then the programming language utilization for the performance enhancing for the different companies. Those were the two different main areas of my interest. So I started with IBM, and then I was headhunted by Oracle. So I was serving there as a vertical lead within the Oracle. And then I deep dived in the world of machine learning and AI within the Oracle and with the OCI offerings from the Oracle. And then I started discovering more and more with regards to the artificial intelligence and become kind of obsessed with artificial intelligence. And that was when the OpenAI and Google gave to myself as a consultant to enhance their models, both like large language models, and I was deeply involved. And then I founded also the ChatGPT Prompt Factory, which was mainly focused on the different prompt techniques to work with the large language model, and then moved and founded the company, which is serving across the globe and helping the people and the companies to create their own AI tools to enhance their productivity and work, and also on top of the different large language models. So nowadays, I'm serving a lot of different companies across the globe and helping them to have their own AIs implemented in their companies.
Thank you. And I think your experience is a little bit difficult to copy, or and we don't have a lot of people who have two PhD or just across law and technology or computer science, and but it's very inspiring. And
Thank you.
yes, maybe let's move to Oliver. What's your story?
Mine's very unconventional. I was inspired initially to look at tech because I liked cyberpunk fiction from the 80s, Neuromancer, Neil Stephenson, that kind of stuff. And I ended up working at a debt collection agency, no kidding, who taught me social engineering. Because to find people who are hiding when they owe money, you actually have to learn social engineering. And as I dug deeper into that, I found out there was this whole world of, basically hacking and hackers. And back then it was kids and it was maybe some criminals. It was a very different threat profile than it is today. I started getting interested into that. There were people like Kevin Mitnick, who were famous at the time, Bruce Schneier, and Legion of Doom, Master of Deception. So there's all of these famous hacking groups who'd been featured on TVs and books, which I think just really got me inspired, at least. And I think it's a calling. When you're in security, we're cynical, we focus on risk, we're generally always waiting to lose. We know we're going to get breached eventually. And it's just how you deal with that breach at that point. But you have to have a certain kind of mentality to do that to yourself year in, year out, because really most businesses don't want to spend money on you. Right? So it takes a very special type of person to want to do cybersecurity, is what I'm saying. At the same time, though, from an AI perspective, look, like we've been trying to detect anomalies and threats and hackers since day one. What we do is data driven. It's basically having to analyze huge amounts of data in real time. That's what drives cybersecurity as a discipline. And so we've been early adopters of cybersecurity, I think, from day one, which, I mean, I wrote my first my first blog, I think, on AI and information security in 2000. And so I dug it out just recently, and sadly, I could probably republish it tomorrow with very little changes. That's kind of this, despite Gen I, despite everything. I think it's still early days, but yeah. So I have quite an unconventional entry into tech, but as I mentioned, cybersecurity is more of a calling than I would say to make money or anything like that. Yeah.
Thank you. And again, that's yeah, your area is I think very special. And as what you said, that you know, security in general is an area where that you have to have a big passion, and otherwise it's a challenging area, and then you are racing with the bad guys, and you also, you know, as what you said, there's always you know, chance that you know, you lose the racing for now, and then you keep up, and then you know, you always see problem, you try to just have to solve problem. I think that's definitely, I think is a very unique path. And that's, you know, go to Ali, and what's your personal story?
But for me, my entry into fintech, and I'm going to focus on fintech because I work in various disciplines. My passion for fintech started way back when the term fintech was not something that was in the public domain. So as a young professional, just out of college, probably my second or third job, I walk into a bank branch. I shall not mention the name of the bank because that'll be on my case tomorrow or even today. And I walk into this bank branch and I produce my ATM card. I want to withdraw cash. The ATM wasn't working outside. And the teller tells me, sorry, your account is no longer in this branch. We have moved you to River Road. River Road is one of the not very, polished areas of Nairobi. I'm like, why? Why have you moved me to River Road without having conversations with me, or I did not want to be moved to River Road? I said, well, you know, your account balance doesn't meet the minimum threshold for this branch. I'm like, what the hell? So I decided, okay, I'm closing my branch. I'm closing my account right now. Long story short, I left the bank and opened my account to a new sort of new bank that was coming up, saying, look, you know, we're going to treat you well. You know, you can walk into any branch, doesn't matter which branch you are in, you'll be served. That really got me interested. How does one bank not able to serve its customers well, and there's technology, and this other bank is serving its customers using technology, and all branches are super connected. There was no internet banking then, but the ATMs were working full time. So that got me interested, and find out I was already working at a digital agency. And I started really digging deep into this whole banking technology and stuff like that. So long story short, today I am considered a fintech authority, not just in my country, but in the whole African continent. And we continue to see a deep evolution of financial technology in the whole African continent.
Thank
That's
you.
a abridged version of myself today.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you cannot solve my problem, I'm going to solve my problem. I'm going to solve others' problems as well. And I think that's a great story. And you know, from each one of you have you know, a decade or 2 decades of experience, you know, in your own industry, and you see, you know, the technology foundation are changing, and maybe, you know, go back to George. That's what are the main changes that you have seen? And of course, that's you know, Gen AI is you know, since 2020 something that's you know, this becoming something, you know, a lot more, you know, prominent, and after ChatGPT was introduced, and then this becoming the technology every, you know, industry, every company are looking at. But I think you know, when you look back, you know, 10 years, 20 years, from the technology perspective, especially emerging technology, and from your perspective, what have been changed? And as of now, what are the most exciting latest advancements in emerging technology?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, I do believe, and I think that the main bits that could be not very much visible on the top is the machine learning. So machine learning really did a huge impact on the different industries. So starting from the different companies' anomaly detections, so anomaly detections based on the large set of data, then this could lead the story to the predictive analysis. It could be even the customer behaviors, or it could be the decision making. So working with the big data sets, so unstructured data, right? So from everywhere, from literally everywhere, for example, from our smartwatches nowadays, right? So there is a lot of data that can be utilized by the different companies, and based on that, they could produce the products, or they could estimate what would be the predictive behavior. So working with the data is like moved to the totally different what would be level. I think level is the right word. So the data, we had the data different time with the different shape and with the different amount, but how this data could be then used for the decisions, that is what changed during these 10-15 years a lot. So nowadays it could be even, I don't know, from the cinema or movie scenarios moving to the what actually the people are consuming on a daily basis. This is data driven products. So the scenario, for example, for the movies, which actors will be playing, what is the screenplay, where, when, and what is happening, or what would be the advertisement, what we as a humans would be told that this is good and bad. So those things are data driven. So previously it was mainly based on the focus groups, mainly based on the surveys of the different people, but nowadays is based on large data sets of the millions of people. So therefore, whatever we're touching on a daily basis, you just need to backtrack from where this is coming. So each product that you can see, for example, on the advertisement, is data driven. So the construction of the product, that changed a lot. From various different industries, it might touch the different industries differently, right? So for example, if it's the technology, what is needed from the technology perspective is also data driven. So it has the impact on the security, but I think Oliver will be talking about that in the details. So both sides, how to work with this data, how to protect the data, how to utilize the AI for the anomaly detection. By anomaly detection, it could be everything, starting from the, for example, the big data sets, like your data centers or your data tables, and then how to prevent from the penetration, from the access from different companies. So therefore, I think to summarize, what have changed, mainly it changed the way how data is treated and how the decision is driven by the machine learning from the data. So that's would be the summary from my side.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it's very important to just go back to the foundation. And interestingly, when you mentioned that, no matter we talk about AI, IoT, or blockchain, and all this emerging technology is about data. And
Yep.
data was there, no matter structured, unstructured. But with technology, and naturally, that data is being stored differently, and how data is being used differently, and then the data as assets and how you can just get more value out of these assets becoming very the foundation of many new business models. And I think that is definitely is a core trend. And thank you.
One more thing,
Yeah.
just to highlight the behavioral science based on the data enhanced a lot and developed, right? So nowadays, just based on the behavior of the person, you can estimate and you can have the guess if the person would behave in some specific manner. For example, it could prevent the some different crimes. It could prevent the different behaviors just based on the data.
Yeah, and a good example of that application is, for example, in the banking industry, where that's before that a certain group of people are being treated as they are not bankable, and
Yep.
because they don't have collateral and all that. But now it's the behavioral data where that's many
Yeah.
more service provider can really just give them
Same for the
financial
bank
help.
sector. If you would, for example, focus on the credit scores, about the ability of the person to pay. So 10, 15 years ago, we had the different tools for that. Nowadays, you have a different tools. And what the tools 10, 15 years ago were saying, it's not equal what on the visibility or what you have nowadays. So nowadays, it's much more precise. And again, like, you're measuring much more different and different things on person, on his experience or her experience, on the behavior of the person. And then based on this data, because you could have, and you can track the transaction as well, so you can even just get the profile of the buyer, right? What is the profile of the purchaser? This is on the banking sector, right? And it's same how to drive the sales, for example, even from the website, right? Like 10, 15 years ago, the website sales were in a way that the person is entering website and there are some banners, and then you're just moving the person somehow in the journey. But nowadays, whatever the website offers, if it's data driven, you just like push the person to do the sale, so to do the purchase. So you're just just really guiding the person from the entering to the website to make the person to do the purchase. And this is the data-driven technology.
Thank you. And let's move to Oliver.
Yeah, I mean, to really amplify what George said as well. I mean, everything has become far more data-driven, but I think there's this nexus of forces at work, right? Where we're seeing an advancement in our ability to process data. Then we're seeing Jevons paradox. It becomes cheaper to process data, so we establish more use cases to process data. In security, where I work, we're basically seeing an explosion, not just of the volume of data, but also variety. Right now, we have essentially legacy technologies like mainframes. We have current technologies like essentially virtualization, cloud, like mobile desktop users, remote users, which we have to secure. And we have emerging technologies like AI that we have to secure. We talk about an expanding attack surface. And each one of these attack surfaces has a different way of operating. Cloud DevOps people work very differently from a security point of view. It's baked in. They're trying to do it in a CI/CD model than, let's say, a traditional manufacturing company who essentially have, combi shift work over the weekend. They have manufacturing plants. They can't necessarily monitor endpoints and so on. So you have very different profiles. From a technology perspective, on the security side, it means really building this connective tissue to connect all of these things up, because you have to look at this holistically. You can't just look at one point, because attackers are always looking for that blind spot. And that makes it into a very interesting data challenge. It's not just volume, it's one of velocity and one of variety. We talk about the 3 Vs. At the same time, of course, it's not good data. we don't have really, I would say, a high level of accuracy when we detect stuff, because I'll give you an example. If you want to detect PowerShell activity, you're going to detect pretty much all PowerShell activity. Whether it's good or bad, you have to work out whether it's good or bad afterwards, because attackers are heavily using PowerShell to basically, execute later stages of the attack. And so at that point, you're going to have a lot of noisy detections. So you have a noise problem, you have a signal problem. We talk about trying to find the needle in the haystack. And at the same time, you're having to manage essentially what is a data engineering stack, where you keep having to build parsers and connectors, because what we don't really have in the moment is a large level of standardization. Thankfully, there's a driver from the greater data industry. People are specializing on data lakes like Snowflake or something, AWS, which we can piggyback on, but it's still a lot of manual maintenance, which is where we come to AI. I think what's interesting so far is that I always make the analogy in security of an MRI scanner compared to an X-ray machine. MRI scanners did not democratize medicine, right? It did not even help doctors with medicine. You need a specialist operator. It did not obsolete the X-ray machine. It looks at something different. It is far more expensive to build, to maintain, and to operate. And what we've received for the most part in security is another way to look at your data, another way to find anomalies. What people actually needed was something which helps them automate away a lot of the menial work. And that's what we're seeing with this current generation of AI. If I look at LLMs, for example, they are ideal at being able to generate configuration files or anything which is text-based. Our biggest problem is keeping up with the adversaries. Attacks are coming out every day. We always have a delay. There's always a window of opportunity for the attacker, which we're hoping to close using AI, because now I don't need a team of people doing threat intelligence, trying to manually create detection logic. I can have an LLM scanning the news, trying to extract the indicators of compromise and automatically building a detection. And at that point, I can use very traditional unit testing approaches to test the output, the signature. I can simulate the attack and try to test it. I can automate this to a high degree, which was missing before. So for us, it's a force multiplier, and it's a way to keep up with the adversaries.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's you provide this problem solving as a driving force, and where that's can see that's when we evolve, the emerging technology, or just in general the problem itself are changing, where that's also just drive the technology users to just find new ways to leveraging technology, and also address the challenge associated with the new adoption. And let's go back to Ali.
So for me, I want to focus on financial services and how data has sort of democratized the space quite a bit, not just in my home country, Kenya, but across the continent. Before these new emerging technologies around data mining and availability of information about somebody's credit score, it was very difficult for the base of the pyramid to get any access to any funding, because banks simply would not lend if you didn't have a credit history. So came 13 years ago, M-Pesa was founded by Safaricom, which is the leading mobile phone company in Kenya. And they founded, they kicked off mobile money, and over the years, democratization of availability of data for the underserved populations through mobile money has tremendously opened up the market for financial services. Financial inclusion has moved from below 30% to today 86+% in Kenya. Through that movement has really been enabled by data, by immense big data, and the ability to crunch those numbers and come up with credit scores. So now we are starting to focus more on financial wellness. That's the next stage. Then you start appreciating the people who were unable to get credit are now able to. Not just that, in Kenya today, because of the ability of connectivity and data, you can ping my data, my identity through the government IPRS system, Integrated Population Services System. Connect that with your unique phone number and be able to say this is Ali. And therefore I can be able to access financial services. That's one key important aspect of how new emerging technologies and new technologies have been has enabled the population and Kenya to move from below 30% financial inclusion to 86% plus. Now let's talk about the potential for blockchain and stable coins and cryptocurrencies. Remittances into Africa from all different corridors across the world, UK, Europe, European Union, the Americas, is highest coming into Africa. In some cases, up to 12%. I mean, that's just crazy. If I'm sending $1,000 from the US to a country in Africa, 120 is going to fees. I mean, really, that's $120 is sometimes the difference between somebody eating and not eating in one day in Africa. SDGs, the UN SDGs are saying that the target should be not more than 3%. Now, if I use some of the applications online for cryptocurrencies, the Ripples of this world, the Binances of this world, cost for transactions is minuscule. It's in some cases not even 1%. That's the potential for new emerging technologies. Blockchain is going to play a key role. Now, we are seeing a situation where policymakers and regulators are clamping down on blockchain technologies and fintech-based cryptos. But see, this is like fighting a losing battle. I think the most important thing, people must accept a couple of things. Number one, financial services is one of the most regulated industries anywhere in the world for obvious reasons. You're dealing with people's money, which is one of the most sensitive issues you're going to have to face anywhere in the world. Number two, policymakers and regulators must accept that these fintechs, especially in the crypto ecosystem, are here. So instead of fighting them, instead of making life difficult for them, embrace them and bring them into the formal financial services ecosystem. In Africa, especially, these fintechs are needed because they will bring down the cost of transactions dramatically. Every time I speak to executives, entrepreneurs who are looking to enter the African market, I keep on telling them, guys, don't talk of Africa like it's one country. It's 54 different countries with 54 different policy and regulatory frameworks for different industries. What you want to do is be smart about how you navigate that conundrum. And just like I keep on saying that the best way to eat an elephant is a piece at a time. You can't take the full elephant and try and, put it in your mouth. It's just physically impossible. So you have these opportunities while at the same time you have lots of roadblocks and policy and regulatory conversations that we need to have. So one of the things that the Association of Fintechs, the Africa Fintech Network is doing is starting to engage at the African Union level and start saying, guys, we need a Pan-African policy that will get buy-in across different countries. Passporting of fintech policy and regulatory frameworks, for example, is one of the key issues. The Africa free markets is coming into play, so that's really great. We have PAPS, which is the payment system that its vision is a big, hairy, audacious goal of sort of bringing together the different payment systems across Africa. So as we advance in technology, as we embrace new technologies, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that policy and regulatory frameworks, more often than not, lag behind.
Yeah,
and we need to work together with policymakers and regulators. It need not be it need not be a fight. It
right.
need not
And
be
I'm saying that in different countries, and I think it's not only a African phenomenon, and in general, when you just see any technology penetrating any country, and you see that this is a problem, and innovators are always faster than the policymakers, and I think that itself, we can get a lot of insights. One, another question I want to just ask each one of you is around the challenge, and because especially for individuals, and we talked about how technology is changing, and how the business models are changing, and individuals who by the end of the day are just having a job, and then doing their job, and then that's many of them are for those who see this potential as an opportunity, riding with the emerging technology, have a greater opportunity, solving much more impactful problem, and solving impact many more lives. But for others, and then they got stuck, and because of their education or career path they selected and all that, then they stopped, they stayed where they were, and then they felt they were left behind. So question to each one of you is that how emerging technology is impact the job of the future, and what are your suggestion or advice to those who want to really just convert that into opportunities? And maybe this time start from Oliver.
So I mean, in the cybersecurity industry, we've had apparently, according to the media, an ongoing acute skill shortage for like years of 3 million people. I don't think the figures are quite correct, but because in reality, there's things being conflated. Part of the problem is that we have to deal with so many different technologies now that you need to have multiple skills in one of the same person, which is really hard. But the discussion around how much can you automate away the need for people is a big one. It's not, especially because if you think of being attacked globally, it's a 24/7 thing. It's not sufficient to just have people at a desk 8 hours a day. The attackers don't rest. If you have an internet-facing infrastructure, it's going to be attacked on a weekend if you're there or not. So automation is a big topic in generally for cybersecurity. analyst burnout as well. And I find that interesting because we have an industry where I think if you're always in a pressure cooker, you always have to be alert. I think that then really takes a toll on you. And so that's another area where we're looking towards automation, AI to help us. At the same time, though, the technology just hasn't been there yet. And so if there's a lot of, just the last couple of months, there's, I think, a lot of soul searching going on around Gen AI, around what's being promised, what people are actually being experiencing. And there's a very different set of experiences coming to the fore, depending on what work you do, your level of expertise, and what use cases you're applying it to. And so in cybersecurity, for example, we're seeing great progress in terms of automating things like dealing with threat intelligence, basically getting the latest news up to date and then making sure that it gets integrated into whatever you're doing from a security perspective. We're also seeing a lot of progress really in terms of knowledge engineering. And I think that's an important point to take away. Like we talk about AI, but most people think it's a matter of taking AI to solve all your problems. But a lot of the information, a lot of the knowledge that people think a company has never been formalized. It's never been documented. And so obviously there's this whole element going on of just trying to work out how do you actually utilize AI in the best way. I think on the other side, so businesses are really bullish, end users are slightly apprehensive, but it's impacting the job all the time. So we're seeing these type of technologies being deployed pretty much from day one. I think 12 months ago, almost every single security vendor that I know of started integrating the chatbot to be able to talk to the data. And coming back to the mixed experience, the truth is that to query that data, you still need expertise. And I think that's an interesting point. Like we talk about automating, like how much can we automate in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Is it 20%, 30%, 40, 50%? What impact does that have on me as an employee? And I have a hunch that most employees, most investors, most businesses are going to be facing a decade's worth of constant volatility. As soon as you adapt, the goalposts are going to move. In my industry, it's not just the businesses and the employees moving the goalpost, there's attackers as well. So there's basically all of these different forces at work pushing on the employee. And at a time while I'm supposed to be protecting a business from hackers, I have to worry about, am I keeping up to date? Am I future-proofing my career? So I think it's an interesting position to be in. It's very stressful, I think, for a lot of people. Yeah, that's kind of my view on it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think this stress probably, again, is shared by many. And then, automation is just, interesting in different report. And then you will see that automation is being featured in a very different way, and the narrative is completely different. Automation saving the cost, and then it's as a progress versus automation is really just killing the jobs and then pushing people out to the poverty and create stress. And I think in different contexts this is really true. And thank you for sharing that. And George?
Yeah, good question. So I think we need to choose the battles, right? So the battle to somehow win against the technological development, I think it's very difficult. So meaning is that the automation, like back, I don't know, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, when it started, so the person, the human cannot win this battle. The meaning is that the humanity by itself would still always think what can be done to automate the different things. So therefore, I think the main skills that the people need to focus is the adaptability. Adaptability to harvest as much as possible and to learn very, very quickly. So there will be, of course, there will be the jobs that would become obsolete. So that always was the case, always. It is the case now as well, and it will be in the future as well, right? So, for example, if there were some people doing the grammar checks, right? So those people, this skill would become obsolete as AI will enhance. So there will be no need of the humans to check the grammar for other humans, right? it could become the editors, different types of the works. So the robotics and the development of the robotics and technology would take some of the jobs from the market, but at the same time, it will introduce the other jobs and require the other skills. I think for the person, if the person is thinking, hey, what is going to happen with my role or job in the next 5-10 years? So the person shouldn't just like hide against the reality which is coming, but need to find the way how to deal and how to cooperate and work with those innovations coming. So it's same with the Gen AI, right? So there is a skill which is needed, how to communicate, how to get as much as possible. It's pretty much same in all other areas. So I think, look, it is the human nature for a lot of people to somehow resist with the changes. So because the humans, they're like, their behavior and the habits are so deeply in ourselves, to change the habit is difficult, but it's still doable, right? So you need as minimum 21 days to change the habit. So everyone can change the habit, and everyone, I believe, can adapt if they will, if they wish to do it. So therefore, it's up to the person. The person can try to battle, but I think we need to be careful and choose the battles. So I would not be choosing the battle that you cannot win. So I think is the right to adapt, learn the new skill, and see what benefits we could have from this technology. And it's everywhere. So starting from the medicine, there are a lot of technologies. Oliver was talking about the MRIs as well, right? So the MRI technology and AI and predictive analysis, also with the diagnosis, it's a big help for the people and for the people who are working in the medical this industry. So there will be always needed the operators how to use those things. Yeah, so it's still like always. This always is with the brackets, because if we'll get into the time when the AGI will be already in place, then actually AI could think how to develop itself. So that's a bit dangerous, but
yeah, and we have a different level of a challenge, and I think compare Oliver and George's message together. From Oliver, we need to recognize the challenge, which we need to recognize is not easy, and Brand George, and then although it's not easy, but we need to be intentional, and if you're intentional, and you can adapt. And Ali, what's your message?
There is so much controversy on this subject about AI and emerging technologies and the future of work. What I like when answering these questions for me, I like to just use very simple examples of my day-to-day, myself and my team. So my use of, say, AI, machine learning, from an African perspective, I consider these as essential today as any utility. So on my Google Apps, simply I use Gemini to do lots of things that I could have done before, Gemini AI. On LinkedIn, I use LinkedIn a lot for engagement and business development. I use a number of AI tools to do research. For example, my good friends at Google, for example, Google as a search engine needs to start really looking how a search engine operates today. Perplexity AI has plugged in AI tools to make search, not just search, but you're searching and you're also you're not just getting links to go into. It actually does a lot of work for you that you could have done before. My executive editor at Alitox Tech used to take 2 to 3 days to cut up 45 to 30 minute video, 45 to an hour video, to cut it up for snack bites for TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. Today, the same work has moved from 3 days to 30 minutes. That's the power of AI. You're empowering. You have to continuously upgrade your skill set. If you do that and you have the right mindset, all these new technologies actually enhance and improve your productivity as opposed to taking away your job. That's how I look at it.
Thank you very much, and thank you all of you who are with us. And it's a fascinating conversation. I know that this can just we can continue this for another hour or two, and but you know, this is just the beginning of surfacing many of the exciting opportunities and you know, challenges faced by companies and individuals. And hopefully that's, you know, you will be able to join us in the future, and we can continue this conversation. Thank you, Oliver, Ali, and George.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.